Which offer is the best buy? Store A, which offers 5 DVDs for $37, or Store B, which offers 8 DVDs for $68. On this one, it might be best to calculate a unit rate. And a unit rate is going to tell you the cost of one DVD at each of the two stores. So for Store A, I can calculate the unit rate by dividing $37 divided by the 5 DVDs. And when we divide that out, 5 goes into 37 7 times. And we need to add a decimal point and a 0 to break down. And 5 goes into 20 4 times. And then because I'm talking about money, I need a dollar sign, and then I can put in the last 0 to make it $7.40. At Store B, I can calculate the unit rate by dividing 68 divided by 8. 8 goes into 68 8 times. And then I need a decimal point, so I can bring down a 0. And 8 goes into 40 5 times. Just like before, I can put a dollar sign and a 0 to show that it's $8.50. Now that I've calculated the unit rates for each store, at Store A, it costs $7.40 for one DVD. At Store B, it's $8.50 for one DVD. So I can say that Store A has the lower unit rate, and you will actually save $1.10 per DVD if you buy from Store A rather than Store B. A boa constrictor is 129 centimeters long, and a python is 50 inches long. Which snake is longest? It does tell us to show our work using a proportion and solve using cross products. So if I'm setting up a proportion, I need two fractions that are equal to each other. That's what makes something a proportion. When you are converting measurements, you want to take the measurement you're converting, and I'm going to decide to convert the 50 inches into centimeters. So I'm going to put inches in the numerator and centimeters in the denominator. And so I need to put 50 inches in the numerator, and I'm trying to figure out how many centimeters that's equal to, so I'm going to put an X for centimeters. Then for the second ratio, I'm going to use my conversion factor. So inches still goes in the numerator, and centimeters still goes in the denominator. Now that I have my proportion set up, I'm going to use cross products, which tells me that 50 multiplied by 2.54 is equal to X multiplied by 1. Now I need to simplify each side, so I can begin and multiply 5 and 54 hundredths times 50. And in my product, I'm going to move my decimal over 2 places. So I get that 50 times 2 and 54 hundredths is 127. And X times 1 is X. I should have my squiggly lines to show that it's approximately equal, because it's not quite exact. The 2.54 centimeters is a rounded number. The number actually goes on many more digits. So now I know that X is about equal to 127 centimeters. Now I can compare the two measurements. The boa constrictor is 129 centimeters. The python is 127 centimeters. And now I can see that the boa constrictor is longer by about 2 centimeters. So not by a lot, but enough to make it longer. Number 3, write a proportion that will allow you to correctly compute the answer to 75 inches equals how many feet. Just like the last one, we need a proportion, so two fractions that are equal to each other. Again, we're going to put inches in the numerator, and this time we're going to put feet in the denominator. So I'm going to put 75 inches over x, because I'm trying to figure out how many feet that is. And the second fraction is my conversion factor. And I know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. So I'm going to set it up 12 inches over 1 foot. It doesn't ask us to solve, but we could easily solve by using cross products again. So 75 multiplied by 1 equals 12 times x. And this time I can use the regular equal sign because it's not an approximation. There are actually exactly 12 inches in 1 foot. I'm going to divide by 12 on each side to get 1x. And then when I do 75 divided by 12, 12 goes into 75 6 times with 3 left over, so I could write it as 6 and 3/12, or that would be equal to 6 and 1/4. I'm going to write it as a decimal, so 6 and 25 hundredths, and the units are going to be feet. So that means that 75 inches would be equal to 6 and 1/4 of a foot. Number 4, 45 hundredths of a kilogram is about equal to 1 pound. Is 1 kilogram larger than 1 pound, or is 1 pound larger than 1 kilogram? It does tell us to justify our thinking, but we can use numbers, pictures, or words. Personally, this makes the most sense if I sketch out a picture. So I'm going to just draw a rectangle and say that that amount is 1 pound. Now that doesn't make perfect sense because pound is a weight, not a length, but we can still use it to help us with the visual representation. 1 pound is about equal to half or just under half of a kilogram. So if I take that same size and double it by just a little bit more, so here's my halfway point, that is going to represent 1 kilogram. Okay, so again, 1 pound is about equal to just under half of the kilogram. Now that I have the picture, it's really easy to see that 1 kilogram is larger than 1 pound. Number 5, what is the unit rate for the set of data in the table below? In order to find a unit rate, I need something that has a denominator of 1. So I could set up one rate and say $9.45 is the cost for 3 gallons. And the unit rate, I need to know the cost for 1 gallon. In order to find the missing value, I'm going to divide 3 divided by 3 is 1. $9.45 divided by 3 will give the new numerator. So we can set up $9.45 divided by 3. The decimal is going to come directly above. 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 goes into 4 1 time. And 3 goes into 15 5 times, and there's no remainder when I do that. So that means that 1 gallon would cost $3.15. It is extremely important for you to put both sets of units on this. So our final answer is $3.15 per 1 gallon. Number 6, store A sells a watch for $75 and offers a 5% discount. Store B sells the same watch for $95 and offers a 20% discount. From which store should you buy the watch if you want the lowest price? So we're going to do store A. If I get a 5% discount, then that means I am going to need to pay 95% of the cost. When you multiply those, you're going to get a sale price of $71.25. Now you could do 5% off, so 75 multiplied by 5%. Be careful that you do 0.05 and not 0.5. And then whatever you get, subtract it from 75. If you do that computation, you're going to get the exact same amount from above, which is still $71.25. Now at store B, you have a watch for $95 and you get 20% off, which means you still have to pay 80% of the price. That calculation will give you $76. Just like before, you could have done it the other way, where we do 25% of 95, and subtract it from 95. That would give you the same value of $76. Now we can compare the two sale prices and say that store A is lower by $4.75. So you will save $4.75 by going to store A. Number 7, write and solve an equation to answer each question. You need to make sure that you start with an equation before you solve the problem. These types of problems, you're always going to change your percents into decimals. The word of means that you are going to multiply, and the word is means that you are going to put an equal sign. So 35% is 35 hundredths of 250 is what number? And we'll use a variable to represent what number. When you multiply those two together, you get 87 and 5/10. On part B, 15% is written as 0.15 of what number is 25. In order to solve this equation, you need to divide both sides by 0.15. And when you do that, you get n equals 166.6 repeating. And if you round to the nearest tenth, you would put 166.7. And I'm going to do the approximately equal because I'm rounding my final answer. On part C, I have what percent of 450 is 50. To solve for the variable, divide both sides by 450, and you get P equals 0.111 repeating. And when you change that into a percent, it's going to round to about 11%. Part D, what number is 20% of 80? So just like the first one, piece it all together, and we're going to end up multiplying 80 times 20%. That will give us a value of 16. So n equals 16. Number 8, in a sale, all the prices are reduced by 20%. Justin sees a coat, fix that, that costs $46 before the sale. How much does it cost in the sale? We're going to do the calculation $46 multiplied by 80% because that's the amount he's still going to pay. And that gives $36.80. And again, if you're still subtracting it off, that's perfectly okay. You would do 46 times 2/10, and whatever you get, you would subtract it from 46. That'll give you the same answer. In part B, we're going to split it apart by week until we get to the 5th week. So in the second week of the sale, the prices are reduced by 20% of the previous week's price. So week 2, we're going to multiply $36.80 by 80%, because that's the amount we're still paying, and that gives a value of $29.44. We're going to continue to do the same thing until we get to week 5. So in week 3, we need to do $29.44 multiplied by 80%. Again, you could do the 20% and subtract it off. And we'll get $23.55. Week 4, we're going to multiply $23.55 by 8/10 to get a cost of $18.84. And then one more time in week 5, $18.84 multiplied by the 80% you still need to pay would be $15.07. Now, if you're off by just a few pennies, that's okay. Go ahead and keep what you have. It might have been a little bit different the way that we rounded. I used the full amount to calculate the new value. If you're using the already rounded amount, then it might change your answer just a little bit. That's okay. I would still accept the other values on a test if they're within a few pennies. For the last part, explain why Julie is wrong and justify your thinking. You could say something about how the price is actually $15.07, not $0. And the big reason is because you are calculating a percent off each week, not just subtracting $9.20 each week, which $9.20 would have been our discount for just the 46 multiplied by 20%. So you're not subtracting the same amount off each week, you are subtracting off the percent, which is going to change each week. So your amount off is actually going to get a little bit less because you're doing 80% of a smaller number. When you're justifying your answer, be sure to use numbers from above. That's the easiest way to make sure that you justify your answer and prove that you know what you're talking about. And number 9, you can buy 6 CDs for $76 and 8 CDs for $112. Are the rates proportional, and how can you tell? When it's asking if the rates are proportional, all it's asking is, are the two ratios equal? So we'll set this up, $76 for 6 CDs, and we want to know, is that equivalent to buying 8 CDs for $112? Okay, those are the two rates, and we want to see if they are equal. You have two options. You can either calculate the unit rate, where you would find the cost for 1 CD at the first location and 1 CD at the second location. We did an example like that in the first one, so I'm going to use a different method, but either one would be okay. The method that I'm going to use is cross products. So I'm going to multiply 112 times 6 and see if that's equal to 76 multiplied by 8. Okay, 112 multiplied by 6 is going to give you 672. 76 multiplied by 8 is 608. And those two values are not equal, so we'll put the unequal symbol between them. And then we would answer the question and say, no, the rates are not proportional because the cross products are not equal. If you did it with the unit rate method, you could say that the rates are not proportional because they have different unit rates.